Hello there. Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to ask a short favor. If you're interested in either of the two books that I have written and am about to release, head on over to my website at theanxioustruth.com/books. There you can learn about both books, one of which is free, and you can get on my mailing list to be notified when each book is released and how you can get it. I would really appreciate that. Okay, let's get rolling. Hey guys, it's Drew. The episode you're about to hear was recorded December 18th, 2018, and it starts in an awkward kind of fashion. Let me explain. Jackie had agreed to come on video with me to talk about her anxiety success story, but we had all kinds of technical problems for a few minutes. So what you hear in the very beginning is us finally getting our act together. So I apologize for the bit of an awkward start, but trust me, hang around and listen. It's well worth it. Thank you. There we go.
Hey!
I hear Jackie. There she is. Yay.
Hey!
It actually worked. She made it.
I had my microphone off or something, so I had to do some kind of rigmarole.
Technology isn't good. We're better off
And I'm not good with it, so.
Oh, you did just fine. So for those of you who hung around and stuck in there with us for the last few minutes, I appreciate that. So today we're going to talk for a little while, and Jackie, thank you very much for being willing to do this. Hugely, hugely helpful. So people always want to know, they ask all the time, has anybody ever really done this? Is it really possible to get better and get past all this? And I could talk myself, until I'm blue in the face that, yes, I actually did it. But it would be nice to hear from other people. And Jackie is one of those people.
I am.
I'm super proud of her for being willing to come forward and do this. And just a quick disclaimer before we get into it. I didn't fix Jackie. I have nothing to do with it. Jackie fixed herself. Like everybody will fix themselves. I didn't do anything. Dr. Claire Weeks didn't do anything. I mean, these are all tools that help, but in the end, Jackie, I think she would probably agree. She, in the end, fixed herself. So, Jackie, let's tell me a little bit, how long did you struggle with this sort of thing? Was it just panic, agoraphobia? I mean, how limited was your life? How bad was it?
It started out, I would want to say about 10 years ago. And it started with panicking, at the grocery store, being in line at the grocery store. And then it just escalated to where I basically couldn't go anywhere or do anything except go to work. Everything for me was related to anytime I felt trapped. And at first, I only felt trapped, I guess, in a line at the grocery store. And then slowly, it just expanded out and became, everything felt like a trap to me. Being without my car, being in traffic, all the things you hear. Getting my hair cut was unbearable, sitting in that chair. It all had to do with embarrassing myself, if I had to leave. So if I was getting my hair cut and I would panic and feel like I had to leave, I would embarrass myself in front of other people. It sounds kind of vain, but
no, it actually doesn't sound vain.
That was where it seemed to root itself, and then it just expanded to everything. And I mean, I even remember I would watch TV, and every single program I saw, I would say, I can't do that. It so consumed my life. I could never do that. Even the simplest things I would say, I'd be like, oh my God, I could never do that. And it just grew and grew and grew.
And how long do you think that went for? I mean, can you have a time? Was it months? Was it years?
Years. 10 years, I probably really had a lot of trouble. On and off. There was probably about 2 years in there somewhere where it kind of went away. Either that, or I kind of learned how to cope with it, with all the BS stuff you do. I stayed away, I avoided the grocery store, or I would avoid a long line. I would just put my cart, I'd go around and around, circle around the store until the lane was empty. And then I'd quick get in there. Because for me or something, it was about waiting in line. And if someone got in behind me, I would freak out and be like, oh my God, somebody's behind me. I would have to get all my stuff off the belt and interrupt them to get out of there. And my panic would just, all the symptoms that you talk about, just go crazy. I'm going to pass out right here in line. I'm going to have a heart attack. And it has,
but of course you never did.
no, I never did. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like once you start putting it together, that all the things you're thinking are kind of BS. Especially like once you recognize it as anxiety, that was a big key for me. Like once I started to pool all the symptoms together, and I'd be like, oh, that thought is definitely a thought I only have in my anxiety moment. Then I was able to like say, oh, okay, this is anxiety. And that was a huge, like, then I knew I could relax. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I
Sounds
absolutely
crazy, but
well, to a certain extent, all of this stuff sounds crazy. To people who aren't in it, it sounds completely insane most of the time.
And
so I get that.
It's so hard to explain. Like when you do well, like I understand you try to explain it in 20 different ways, hoping that it'll click, which it did with me. One of your videos really clicked with me. I was even trying to remember how I discovered you. And I'm fairly sure it was like 2 years ago. I bought one of those books, like 8 weeks panic anxiety workbook or something. 8 weeks to, whatever.
Freedom or something.
Yeah, whatever. But it did get to the exposure chapter. And the way it kind of explained exposure was, I didn't understand it. Like, because I kept doing it and I was just freaking out more and more. It was getting worse and worse.
Right.
And I thought, I'm doing something wrong. So I Googled exposure. And at that time, you were the only thing that came up. Your video about,
who knew?
your video about exposure. So as soon as I found your website and I watched that video where you told me it's not supposed to feel good, that's all I needed to hear. You're supposed to be scared. You're supposed to freak out. Like that's part of exposure. And I just needed to hear that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think that keeps people, the difference between, maybe you and I and someone who's watching right now, who's in the thick of it and can't go to the grocery store, has that very shrinking life. Everything's getting smaller. They're avoiding and missing out on things. Yeah. And they want to get better. There's no difference between us and if that's you, if I'm describing you, there's no difference between me and Jackie and you.
No.
Right, we're the same as you.
We're made of the same. We're made of the same stuff. Yeah, right, definitely. Exactly. You can get better for sure.
I believe that we all have the same capabilities too. Jackie and I are no stronger than anyone else that's watching right now, or any different, or wired any differently. And I think the biggest sticking point is exactly what you just said. Like, where you have to understand, this is not supposed to feel good. Right. If you're spending your time trying to, like, that was a turning point for me too, when I realized, like, hey, this is just going to suck, like, epically. Right. But it has to, and there's only, that's just the way it has to be. So you have to accept that you're going to really feel bad while you're doing this. Right. But that didn't last that long.
No.
Right. Once you let yourself feel bad and just let that happen, how long before you started to feel like, oh, this is getting easier?
I was doing it wrong for probably 6 months, I would have to say, because I was still clenching,
Sure.
I was still fighting it. And when you start to like relax, even if you can just relax one muscle, anything, it's almost kind of BS at first until you get it. Like it's like an internal surrender. And that tells your mind, oh, I don't have to run the anxiety program. I can relax here, but it's just a matter of what your program is, or what sets your program. Like another video of yours that was brilliant to me was the one where you said you videoed yourself during panic so you could see all the crazy crap you would do. Like I used to like play with my hair. I didn't realize I was doing it. So, but that would signal my thinking, she's playing with her hair. It's time to freak out. You know what I mean? So turn on the freak out, and then it would escalate. And
I think that point is really good, like that you don't have to run the anxiety program. And everybody has a different anxiety program.
Right.
But it's all rooted in the same thing. So yeah, Jackie would play with her hair. I used to like tug at my ear and like prod and poke at my chest all the time. But whatever yours is, snapping a rubber band or turning up the music or all those things that you engage in that you think you must do because you feel so bad and you're trying to escape, you run that anxiety program, and even though they might be all be different for everybody watching, they're rooted in the same thing that says, if I do this thing, I will be safe from this horrible feeling. I will make it go away, and I will be safe, and I will get to safety, and I will be comfortable again. And that is the problem. So when you stop running the anxiety program and just be uncomfortable and be terrified for 5 or 6 minutes without trying to stop that, right? I mean, did you find like, and when that light bulb goes on, suddenly it's crazy hard. Like, wasn't it super hard at first?
It is,
right?
Horrible. I even remember writing you a few times, like, Drew, I am terrified. And listen, when you start working on this, it gets worse. For me, it got worse. Like when I started working on it, it got to be like all the time, because it was almost like, I don't want to say I had it on the run, but it was like doubling down. It's not the enemy. Your thinking is actually your friend. You've taught it to crank your fear up. So you have to teach it, I don't need you right now, you know?
Right.
Like you kind of, in other words, nobody really is sick with anxiety. You just need to realize that it's, it's happening. It's not happening to you. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not an external thing. It's not something that comes at us from outside. It's not a disease or something that needs to be cured medically or fixed.
Right.
It's just things, just bad. I call them bad cognitive habits.
Right.
You just learn some
patterns.
Bad brain habits.
Yeah.
Right. Bad brain habits. And you can unlearn a habit. So,
right.
But I think, so what I want to focus on a little bit is that first, I don't know if you remember, like the very first time you truly did that and said, okay, here it comes, like, come and get me. And I made a video, I think last week, about that where you make that big decision in your life that says, no more. Like, if you're going to come and get me and kill me, then go ahead and do it.
Right.
Then that first time you do that, I always try and tell people, is the hardest time. It is the hardest time.
Yeah.
Right. But then even the second time, if you think back on it, was still super difficult, but at least tiny bit easier.
Right. You
because
crack the door.
Is everything. Right. Experience is everything.
Once you see it, you believe in it. You're like, oh, it's not BS. That was it.
Right.
And like,
look, I did it.
Right. When it happened to me, I think I was in like a bookstore, because I started to exposure, and I would sit in this bookstore and just try to sit through it. Like I literally couldn't even sit in a bookstore. It's just so amazing to me now, the difference. But, and I sat there and I remember, like, it was cranking up and going up to like whatever, a higher level. And I just let go. That's the best way I can describe it. I just kind of let go of any kind of resistance or something. Because in the background, I think you're clenching in so many ways. And that's a whole odyssey, discovering how you're fighting it. That's an individual, personalized kind of thing to learn your own way to fight it. You know what I mean? But
what are you doing?
I finally did it, and I had like a moment where it just came down, and it worked. I don't know. And then afterwards, I looked back and was like, that was it. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was fast after that, like the recovery, I want to say. But it was a long time for me to get there. Not long. I mean, a couple months.
Right, a couple of months. But that after 10 years, a couple of months is a very short amount of time. Yeah.
Yes, true story.
Yes, and I think what winds up happening is, if I could describe it, and jump in any time, but that first time you did that in the bookstore, for you it was in the bookstore, if you could look back, and you let it come, and you didn't fight it, and you didn't run the anxiety program, and you just, that surrender is a good word. Like, just, that's it, man, come and get me.
Yeah.
And that moment, there's a moment for me when you suddenly start to feel it subside. You can feel that, like, oh, wait a minute, like suddenly that, like, wait, I actually feel a little better right now.
Yep.
And that is a magic moment, I think, that many people describe, like when you first realize, like, oh, I feel better.
I did it. Yeah.
I did it. I did it. And then, like, that's experience. And what the mechanism is, to be technical, because some people care and they want it, they need to know this. you didn't just cure a disease. What you did is you learned through experience, because it is the most powerful way that human beings learn, actually doing something, right? You can't learn French just by reading French or listening to it. You have to speak it. You have to do it to learn it, right? So you learned at that moment in the bookstore through experience. Like you actually formed a new pathway neurally that says, oh, this works like this. And I think when you say, I want to address that part where you say you feel like it got worse when you first started doing it, which is probably true. And you have to expect that to a certain extent. And I get people who ask me that, like, I've been going out and doing my driving. Driving is a key thing for some people. I've been getting out every day, but it's making me feel worse. Yes. And that is because you have broken your shell. Right. So we build this, figuratively speaking, a shell that we live in. We engineer a life that sometimes is so complicated, like in our avoidance. Like I'm going to set everything up so that I don't have to face it. It's all like very precariously set up. And then as soon as you dismantle that and you start engaging again with life and doing the things that you have not been doing, of course it's going to get worse. You are no longer like in that engineered life that avoids feeling badly. You're welcoming feeling badly, and so you will.
Exactly. And expect to feel badly, which you've said to me.
In the beginning.
Yeah. So that is so important to remember too. And I think it cranks up too, because you're dropping all your safety behaviors. You're going to do it. You're doing things that you avoided, like you said.
Right.
I mean, I think a lot of times we're trying to control all external factors because our internal is out of control. When really, folks, you can control your internal and just the external doesn't matter. I mean, once you do that, you're good.
It's not the external that's causing the problem.
Right.
Somebody in the group not too long ago, and by the way, if you're watching this and you're not in the discussion group, I'll put a link somewhere. You got to get in that group. But anyway, somebody, it might have been Ingvild, who posted not too long ago that the most valuable thing she ever heard was that it was her that was keeping her this way. Yeah. Like it's not anything else. It's not anxiety that's keeping you this way. It's you that's keeping you this way. Right. We consciously make the choice to react to it that way. I don't want to be afraid, so I'm going to make it go away. And I think the other thing that I want to talk about a little bit is was there a time when you realized like that success isn't measured by feeling good? It's really measured by how you handle feeling bad. Exactly. Right. And I think, like, did you have to go down that and setbacks? And because that leads to this topic of setbacks that we talk about so often. I'm in a setback right now. Yeah. And I think people define that as I was doing so great. And then when you dig a little bit, what they mean by I was doing so great is I haven't had a panic attack for 2 weeks. That's what it is. And that's okay. That's great because nobody wants to have one naturally. And then they have a high anxiety day and they feel like, see, I can't do it. I'm having a setback. It's all coming back. And like, at what point did you have to learn like, oh, no, I actually need to experience panic to not experience panic? Well, it really wasn't until the whole bookstore moment where I stopped even worrying or caring about setbacks. I mean, I just the other day had panic build on me. I was getting my nails done. But awesome. Anyway, and I'm a real nail expert. Well, that's another thing I could not have done a year ago. I know it sounds crazy, but I couldn't have. And I started to get my panic started to come in just out of the blue, and I was not expecting it. I was completely relaxed. I'd been relaxed all beforehand, and I just immediately flipped the switch now. There's like a switch, like an internal, like I said, like you said, there's you feel something turn over inside. Like, oh, this, that's my anxiety. I know it's okay. Like, I know I'm okay, ultimately. Yeah. And it's true because these are skills that I think, and, that you learn. Yeah. That you learn. That's exactly right. These are skills that you learn. So when Jackie starts to feel panic build, right, while you're getting your nails done, or while I'm out on a bike ride, if you saw my video from, whatever, last week, and I start to panic while I'm on my bike. I mean, for me, and it sounds like for you too, like, well, all right, I know. You hit that moment, you have to make your decision. What am I going to do? And now the decision is automatic to do the right thing, in air quotes, Right. And it's just like anything else. The more, if you learn how to cook an omelet, if you do it 100 times, you can make an omelet really easily. Right. And that if somebody hands you eggs, you know what to do with them. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
same thing.
Yeah,
Same thing.
people think the anxiety goes away. It doesn't. You still have anxiety. You just relate to it differently. It's not,
Right.
you're unconcerned by it. You're not, yeah, you don't get all wrapped
It
up
doesn't
in it
matter.
anymore. Right, right.
And I find that I think that's always important to say too. Like, it's not hard forever, because I think people hear us say things like expect to feel badly and expect it
No,
to be hard.
right,
Not forever. Like, so
right.
the curve, you know, you're going to feel like crap, but then you're going to feel better. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
it gets worse, but then it does really get better. You don't have to learn to be like courageous superhero
Yep,
warrior for the rest of your life,
yep.
just for a short amount of time. And then even if you do have anxiety, and I experience it in my life on a regular basis too. I'm not immune to it. And I think
Right.
being alive, there's going to be times when almost any human being experiences things like fear. Just
Sure.
that I do find that I pay it no mind. It doesn't matter if I'm really
Right.
anxious on a day. And I have days where I feel anxious all day, but I just don't care. But there are also very few of those as time goes on. Like,
Right.
I
Oh,
find that,
yeah.
right, have you found the same
I,
thing, that my response, where it used to be like everything would turn into anxiety, now very few things do. If I feel anxious, it's something big is going on.
I don't even know where my books are. And I mean, they used to,
Right.
mean,
Be with you all the time, right?
I was on that podcast forum, our 101 forum,
Yeah, yeah,
24/7. I was on your
yeah.
web. I used to go on your website and like click refresh every day to see, have a new video. Like, it was my life.
Oh,
I would read, I would always, it consumed me all the time. I don't think about it anymore unless, you know, something pops
yeah,
up. I mean, it
yeah.
really, there's
And
life outside of it.
and there is, and everybody can get there. So I think,
Everybody
like,
absolutely can. If I want to say anything, it's that you can do it if I did it. I'm not special at all. You can do this 100%, 100%.
well, I think that's pretty awesome. So do you have any, people always ask, actually, I'll be flat out honest with everybody that's watching and watches down the future. I don't really like that question. Like, what are your tips on how to do this?
Right.
You know, like,
Because
what
there's
are your
so
tips?
many.
Well, there are so many. Everybody comes with their own way, but there's really only one tip. Just, in a way, there's a very small set to me. They all come down to the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
do the exact opposite. So
Right.
if you're in a situation where you've been dealing with this stuff for weeks or months or years, and it feels like there's no way out, well, obviously what you have been doing isn't working.
Isn't working.
So it's not working, right? All that stay at home, don't go to school, don't get a job, don't go to the supermarket, send your husband to do things, or your girlfriend or your wife, or whatever it is you do, take your meds, whatever it is.
Right.
Not working, or you wouldn't be watching this video or participating in the forum on Facebook or whatever it is. So, like, in a way, the best advice is you got to do the opposite of what you've been doing, because it's obviously not helping you.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
trying to just, what you're doing is trying to feel better, and that's the wrong goal.
Yeah.
It's the wrong goal.
And there is some I feel like there's some pre-work. Like, you got to feel like you have to have like a growth mindset to kind of go
Right.
into it. You got to believe that you can change. Because
Yeah.
I think I just thought anxiety was happening to me. I couldn't do anything about it. I think that held me up, I think, for a long time. Like, I
Right.
thought, my thinking, in other words, which is like my anxiety, I thought me and it were mutually exclusive. We couldn't be kind of separate, you know, like I had
Yeah.
no control over my thinking. And you
Right.
absolutely do. You absolutely do. And you need to
You're
be there and believe that to then go and do
right.
the opposite, in other words.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're
Absolutely.
right. And so I like that, I mean, a lot of people relate to that. You have to have the growth mindset. That's a big phrase in like the self-help world, I know.
Yeah, that's probably
Right.
where I got it.
You gotta have that growth mindset. And I think, so that goes back to the video I made last week also, where you
Right.
have to make that decision. You
That
have to be
I'm going
ready.
to do this. Yeah.
I'm doing this.
Yep.
I don't care anymore. I would rather die than live this way.
Absolutely.
And if you do not buy in at that point and say, yep, I'm just doing this. And here's how you know, and I don't know if this resonates with you, to me, when there's no more, yeah, but, like the questions
Yeah.
that we get all the
Yep.
time, you know, I get, so yeah, Drew, I get it, acceptance, but
Right.
when there's no more but, like, yes, but, yes,
Yep.
but, there's no more but,
But
there's no
I
more
can't. Right.
but yes, but how do you, no, you no more, like,
Yep.
when there's no more, okay, I get it, but how do you?
Yep.
there's no more how do
Absolutely.
you just do it. And I think it's also important to understand that the way Jackie came from where she was to where she's now, right? I think, you know, you probably agree with this, would be, yes, so you were on the website all the time, which is very sweet. And I'm happy to hear that it helped, really.
It did.
And
Oh my God.
no, that makes me feel good. That's why I do it, right? So that's great. And you had your books and your workbooks and all those things, and you were just buried it all the time. And I think a lot of people that are watching right now are in that.
Right.
You know, every day I get a lot of private messages like, please, when is the next video coming? And I'm trying to do them as quickly as I can. But more than anything else, like, you didn't just read and listen and watch me and listen to Claire Weeks or whatever. You actually did it.
Yeah.
Like,
and that took time too. Like, I almost felt like reading the book was going to be the solution before I realized I had to. You really got to do it. And
this
that's
isn't about
so
saying.
scary. That's because remember, the problem is up here, kind of. So fixing it with up here doesn't work. You got to fix it, like Drew said, in a that's why exposure works so well. There's emotion and there's actual doing, which is a way better learner, like you said, than reading and all that other.
It absolutely is. You can't read about or watch a video about how to get better.
Right.
You
it's
know.
like reading
you
how
can,
to brush
but then
your
you have
teeth,
to do stuff.
you know. You can,
right. Your teeth, you have to actually.
Right.
That's so good. That's so good. You can't clean your teeth by reading about how to brush your teeth. You actually have to brush your teeth.
But it's worth it, folks. It's rough, but it is so worth it to be free. You know, to be free. Please keep trying, keep going, keep looking for your stuff and what's blocking you. You know, like some of the thoughts that are stopping you, like, oh, I can't, but I can't. Like Drew said, you know, you'll find that you know you say a lot of that stuff and even when you're doing exposure, look at a lot of the things that you're thinking, because as soon as you disprove a few of those, because it is like whack-a-mole, like as soon as you disprove a few of those, though, you'll start to be like, hey, wait a minute, maybe that's not true. You know, like then you start to, you know, I think you got to go through all that like an onion, like peeling an onion, you know.
And there's a mindset that comes with that, like, and because people will start to play, like, really address their symptoms.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is figure out how to deal with my racing heart.
Right.
Then we're going to figure out, and then you get this all the time, like, yeah, I'm doing all my stuff, but that dizziness, that's the one I hear all the time.
Yes, right.
But I can't, with that dizziness.
I can't do that, right.
It's the same way, the racing heart, the heavy breathing, the sweating, the whatever, the nausea, you do it all the same way.
Yep.
So once you've actually got over, you're not really getting over your racing heart, you're getting over anything.
And
like
caring about it, or
you're
getting over
you're
caring
learning
about
to
it.
not care. Right. And so people ask me all the time, well, that's great, but do you have any tips for dealing with, and then they insert a specific symptom.
Right.
You deal with it, and my answer is always the same. You deal with it the same way you deal with every other symptom that you've already defeated. Just keep going, and more might come up, but you'll find that when you truly adopt that mindset of, like, I don't really give a rat's ass what my body throws at me next, then suddenly things stop coming at you. Suddenly no more new stuff happens.
Yep.
Yeah, no more new stuff happens.
Yeah, because you're not really giving it respect. It's like a respect thing, you know?
Yeah, to a certain extent.
You're not giving it any respect.
So, well, this is awesome. I'm so happy that you did this.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's helpful to everybody that has been watching.
And thank you, Drew, from everybody. Your website absolutely helped. It just gave me the way I needed to hear it. You explained it the way I needed to hear it. And it wasn't a book written by, you know, the thing is too, you suffered, so you know. Because I think there's a lot of stuff out there where people don't know what they're talking about. So you suffered and got through it, and I think that speaks in all your stuff. And it helped me so much. God. I know you don't. I know you don't like this part, but I'm saying
you're very kind to say
for everyone else in the forum. We love you. We love you.
Well, thank you. But I think the fact that you hang around, because in most places that you find, and I mean hang around in a good way, you know, it by definition, I think the other thing that I'll point out before we kind of wrap it up, let Jackie get rolling here, but is that when you go online to places like whether it's our forum on Facebook or the millions of other places where they discuss anxiety, I like to think that we have a different kind of place, because we're not just talking about symptoms.
Right.
We're not all telling each other it's okay. We're not just all like, you know, giving each other shoulders to cry on, and a safe place to be limited.
Yep.
Which is many of them are about. We're trying to encourage and motivate and cheer people on and inspire and that sort of stuff. And I think it's working. But by definition, in places like ours, when people get better, they move on. They have no reason to be there anymore.
Right.
So the fact that you will still pop in now and then and answer a question and take, you know, 30 minutes out of your Saturday afternoon is like really awesome.
Because if I can help one person, I would be so glad. I mean, that's like my goal. I just want to help one person. Yeah. And
I'm sure you have today. So, excellent.
Hopefully.
All right, Jackie, I will let you wrap. I don't want to keep you too long. Thank you again.
Yep.
And we'll stay in touch. And for those of you who are, well, whatever, I'll put a link to the forum, get in it. I'll post this on YouTube. And I'm just one quick administrative thing. I always ask in my videos for comments and questions. I love all of them and I want you to ask them. It's become really hard to keep up with all the private messages though. So you're always welcome to try and private message me, and I'll do the best I can. But if you have a question, put it in the discussion group or in the comments of the video or something, so that other people can help out also in the comments below, wherever it is. And I'm not saying don't message me. It's just getting difficult to keep up with. This isn't like a job, so I have other things happening.
Right.
So try and ask your questions in the discussion group if you can join it, or in the comments of the video here. And I'm sure I and other people like Jackie are nice enough to get involved. And can I tell you something also? It doesn't even have to be me or somebody like Jackie or Holly, who is probably asleep right now, who knows. But it doesn't even have to be. Even people who I know are still struggling have been really awesome about helping each other. So if you're willing to discuss it openly, let's do it. All right.
Yay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jackie. All right. See you all later. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, what's up, guys? Drew here. In the 5 years that I've done the podcast, I've never had a sponsor. But now it's time for me to put in a little plug for the day job, the business that I own. And that business is managed WordPress hosting. So if you have a website and it runs WordPress, and you'd like WordPress hosting that makes WordPress faster, more secure, and way easier than you ever imagined it would be, then check out Helix. You can find us online at iamhelix.com. That's IAMHELIX.com. We took a long time to build Helix. I'm super proud of it. It works spectacularly. We take really good care of our customers, and I promise we would take really good care of you too. So if you're in the market for WordPress hosting that will blow your mind, check out Helix. I would appreciate the consideration. I thank you for coming by and listening, and I'll see you the next time.